My parents came to my door begging me, please, to take in my siblings. I'm married to a rich husband, I have a big house, but I tell them no. I don't care if they're suffering. It's because of the way they treated me, and yeah, my siblings might need help, but you know what? The answer is no. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I'm the oldest child in a big family. I grew up very poor, and my family still lives well below the poverty line. Only 2 of my siblings still have and live with their parents, and I'm only one still living in the same country. My family are very close. Apart from me, I never got along with my parents. When I was still living at home, I was expected to act as a live-in babysitter, essentially. I was never allowed to go out and see friends, and I wasn't even given time to complete schoolwork. I practically flunked out of school at 18 because I was never given the chance to study. My parents also told me that my looks were my only asset, and that I'd get nowhere in life trying to be smart. This did damage my self-esteem, and I'm still trying to fail to work through. I did end up marrying a much older, well-off man, but it wasn't for his money. At our wedding, when it was time for the toast, my father stood up and made a toast to my looks, said that my face would probably support the family for generations. I was disgusted with my father for saying this, and I was even more upset that my mom just laughed along with him and didn't even stand up for me. It was awful. The entire room went quiet, and my parents were the only ones laughing, drunk off their butts. I ran out. In the middle of the reception, and it was my husband's mother who wiped away my tears and redid my makeup when I cried in the bathroom, not my own. Thanks to this, I've essentially cut off my parents ever since. It's been a few years now since the wedding, and my parents got the message pretty quickly that I didn't want to see them anymore after I stopped answering all their phone calls. They did not put up much of the fight either. They just confirmed with me that I no longer wanted them in my life. I still live in the town I grew up in, so I run into them occasionally at the grocery store or somewhere else. But I just pretend I don't even see them, and they do the same. It hurts, but it's just the way things have to be. I'm protecting my peace of mind by not allowing them to break me down mentally. I've been pretty content for the past few years, and honestly, I haven't felt the loss of my parents as strongly as I thought I would. I miss my little siblings sometimes, but not enough to go out of my way to go see them. I used to make an effort to see them every now and then, but I've always just rebuffed. Or my parents insisted that they had to be there and would spend the entire time making snide little remarks. So now, I'm happy enough to stay in my own little world, and for them to stay in theirs. I haven't had pretty much any contact with them for the past few years. A few happy birthday texts, a call to ask where my birth certificate is, stuff like that, but nothing that led me to more of a 2-minute conversation. A few weeks ago, I woke up to a missed call on my phone from my mother. I was surprised, but I didn't think much of it. I assumed it was probably just an accident butt dial. Lord knows I've made my own fair share of those over the years. I pretty much put the entire thing out of my mind, until last week when my mother and dad actually showed up to my home. It was pretty late, so I thought that the car in my driveway was just using it to turn around, because we do live on a pretty narrow road. But when it drove up to the house, I recognized my dad's truck. That's when I started getting nervous. I thought that there must have been a death in the family or something, and I needed to come to the funeral. I opened the front door and waited for my mom and dad to get out of the truck. I didn't say anything. I was waiting for them to speak first. It's petty, but I'm still mad at them, and I'm not going to be the one to cross no man's land. I'm the child, they're the parents, and they should act like it for once. It was really awkward at first. I could tell that they expected me to invite them inside. But there was no way I was going to do that. I just know they'd start commenting on how nice the place was, and make snide little comments about how I used my looks to marry up in class. It looked like it was going to rain too, and I was hoping that they would speed up whatever they came here to say. So they were just standing there looking at me, and I was just leaning on the doorframe waiting for them to speak. They looked really rough. My dad has always been pretty heavy, but seeing him now, it looks like he's lost a lot of weight since I've seen him last. At least 100 pounds. Mom just looked tired, and she had a lot more gray in her hair than I remembered. I did try to feel bad for them because they look exhausted, but I just couldn't bring myself to have sympathy for them. They didn't even ask me how I've been when they started talking. They just launched into their little pity party to make me feel bad for them. Apparently, my dad lost his job a few months ago due to an old back injury acting up, and they were completely broke. They'd taken out another mortgage on the house in hopes that it would tide them along until he found some work, but I don't know. They could no longer afford their payments. The house was close to being taken by the bank if they could not make their payments. At first, I thought they were going to ask me for money, and I was going to laugh in their faces and shut the door. But instead, they asked me if I could take in my siblings until they found their feet again. For some background, my two youngest siblings are twins. They're 15, and then there's Justin, who's a normal kid, Talia, who's a very severe brain condition that's left her with the brain of a toddler. There was an issue when my mom was in labor with her and the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, so she was without oxygen for 3 minutes. She's severely disabled and needs constant care. Justin, on the other hand, is just a normal kid. Talia has to go to special schooling and she has a lot of medical complications. There's a lot of medical expenses involved with her, and she has a right nurse come home most of the nights to allow my parents to sleep. Honestly, this was the last thing I expected. My first instinct was to just refuse. I'm not responsible enough to take care of 2 children, and on top of that, I'm just not cut out to be a mom. Not that I'd have to be their mother, but I've just never had a connection with children. I love my siblings, but I don't want to be a guardian. But from the looks of my parents, it did not seem like they had any other options. I know they're proud, and I just can't see them coming to me for help unless it was the very last option. I know that they're proud of me. We're still standing there for about 5 minutes before I said anything, which is another reason I know they're desperate. It must have been humiliating for them to stand there waiting for me to respond. A small part of me enjoys that I have all the power in this situation, but I'm trying to ignore that. Just because I don't get along with them doesn't mean that I should take pleasure in their misfortune. They raised me better than that. No matter what, but it's easy to say that, but not as easy to practice to change the way you think. It was super awkward, and we were all just standing there, so I did not think through it long enough. Honestly, I was still just flabbergasted that they even showed up at my door. I did eventually manage to come to a decision, though, and I decided that while Talia would be far too difficult for me to care for, I should have no problems taking in Justin. I just can't justify taking Talia. I'm not prepared to make such a big commitment, and her care is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are appointments, schedules, big machines that help her breathe. So many different elements, I'm just not ready for that. I have work, I have commitments, I have a life. So I told them I'd take Justin off their hands. He's an easygoing kid and is pretty self-reliant. I don't expect that there'd be any trouble with him, honestly. His school is within walking distance and he has a bus pass anyways. Well, they weren't happy with that and Mom's face went bright red. She told me that I'm selfish for not offering the money and refusing to take Talia. Dad didn't say anything, but he did look really mad, honestly. I don't think that they've had much reason to be upset, though. Even if I did only take Justin, I'd still be doing them a favor by helping at all, when we've barely spoken over the years. They tried to convince me to take them both, but it didn't take long for them to realize that I wasn't going to budge. They left soon after that, without even bothering to say goodbye, just turned around and drove away. It's been a few hours now, and I'm rethinking my decision. I feel guilty for not offering more help. It's not the kids' fault that I don't get along with Mom and Dad. They don't deserve to go homeless. I feel like I've let them down, especially Justin. I know that if I just agreed to take them both for a few months, he would have been in better position right now. He gets kind of pushed to the side in favor of Talia, which is understandable. She needs a lot of direct care, so he can just sort of be forgotten. But I'm not just about to be able to take a kid with such an intense disability. I love Talia, I do. But before I moved out of my parents' house, I was basically her full-time caregiver. The twins were born when I was 12, and with so many kids, Mom and Dad were busy all the time. I'd be the one to feed her, change her, get her up in the middle of the night. I just missed school so many times because the day nurse couldn't make it. So I had to be on duty instead. That's why I'm so hesitant to take her. I know how much care she needs, and I just don't think I'm prepared for that. I've spent 5 years from 12 to 17 pretty much mothering her. Even after everything that I did for them, my parents still decided to insult me and didn't even bother trying to make it up with me after my wedding. But it isn't like the bad blood between me and my parents is the reason I'm not talking to them. I think that's proven in the fact that I would take Justin in a heartbeat. It's not like I'm letting adult relationships come between us children. I do have genuine reasons for not wanting to take Talia in. It isn't some crazy rebellion pettiness against my parents. I'm really in two minds about this. Firstly, I feel bad for the kids, especially Justin. This could have been his one opportunity to be an only child, even if only for a few months. At the same time, I know that taking Talia would take much more of a burden off my parents' shoulders. Even still, even while I'm second-guessing myself, the answer is no. If they change their minds and send Justin here for a while, I'd be overjoyed. But I'm not changing my position no matter what. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So this is actually a pretty heartbreaking story and a very tight position for OP. There's multiple updates for this story, so we're going to jump into update number 1. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider clicking that big red subscribe button for more daily videos and so you never miss an update. Here we go. Update number 1. Wow, okay, so I honestly did not expect my post to get this much attention. I just want to start off by thanking everyone who was kind and just gave actual advice. It really means so much to me I can't explain. There were a lot of people, though, who weren't so nice. I just want to say I'm not being selfish. Taking on a special needs child is a huge undertaking, and no one knows that more than me. I practically raised that girl until I moved away from home. It isn't selfish of me not to want to take on responsibility again. I'm her sister, not her mom. Unfortunately, the situation seems to have gotten worse for my parents. It's been a few weeks now since they turned up to my house, and it seems that I was right when I said that it must have been their last option. Because I got a call from a friend who told me that she'd seen them sleeping in my father's truck, all 4 of them. I called up someone I know who works at the school Talia goes to, and apparently she's been having a lot of medical issues lately. I'm pretty sure the mix of my father losing his job and Talia's medical expenses rising is what caused everything to sort of pile on top of them. Based on the fact that they're sleeping in their vehicle, I'd guess the bank repossessed their house at this point. I feel terrible. I know that I should help, but I just can't bring myself to invite them into my home. Not after all the years of bad blood that's built up between us. Well, I'm going to call my mom tomorrow and reiterate my offer. I still refuse point blank to take Talia in, but if they don't have to worry about Justin and his living expenses, then why don't they do it? They'll probably be able to get back on their feet sooner, and it'll be nice for him to be the only kid for a while. Plus, with Talia's medical issues, she's probably needing a lot more care than she did when I was there, which was already a big amount. I'll update y'all on how it goes, but I can't see them refusing again, not when they're basically living on the street. Update number 2. So, hey guys, I know it's been a while since I updated last post. Work kind of got crazy and my husband had a death in the family, so we've been dealing with a lot. I haven't been able to get in contact with my mom or dad ever since they came to the house. I'm pretty sure they're dodging my calls or changed their numbers or something, because I've been calling multiple times a day for a week now. I've been asking around and no one's seen them sleeping in a parking lot, but knowing my parents, they probably just got wind that someone had seen them and they got embarrassed. I'm sort of at my wit's end here. I don't know what to do. I know that Talia hasn't been to school in a while, and that worries me more than anything. No one seemed to see her or hear from any of them in a long time, and I'm close to calling the police. I feel like this is all my fault for refusing to take both kids in, and now I'm more worried than ever. I knew that my mom and dad were proud, but I never thought they'd be proud enough to refuse even a small bit of help. We don't really have any extended family for them to ask for help, by the way, and all my other siblings live too far away. I'm pretty much their only option. A lot of you guys have been calling me selfish for not wanting to take Talia on, And I get that it may seem that way, I really do, but I need to explain to y'all exactly how much time and care she requires. It's a full-time job, honestly, taking care of her, and there are no breaks. You have to wake up multiple times every night to check that she's still breathing, and that she hasn't choked on her own spit. She also requires a special bed with walls on it to prevent her from getting up. And the room has to be set to a comfortable temperature so that she won't require blankets and that she might get tangled up on. She's incontinent and needs a wheelchair to get around. I don't even know how they're managing to take care of her while sleeping in my father's truck, especially without the reprieve of her school. I'm just not able to do these things. I have a full-time job, honestly, and so does my husband. Neither of us would be able to take indefinite time off, and on top of that, I just wouldn't be good at it. I worry that the obligation would brew resentment between us, and I'd end up disliking her. Talia, she's nonverbal. It wouldn't be fair on either of us if I was being forced to change her day and night, and she wouldn't even be able to communicate with me to say if she likes it or not. Also, I've barely seen her since I've turned 18, and I left home right away. She was a lot smaller then, and even back then, I'd been beginning to have difficulty in lifting her in and out of the chair. And that was when she was even 7. How could I lift a fully grown teenage girl? I'm a small woman. No amount of weightlifting could prepare me for that. On top of that, the cost of accommodating her and making our own home accessible would be astronomical. We would have to install chair lifts, install handrails, decorate a room so that she didn't have sensory issues. We'd even have to completely rip out the central heating to install the very specific, custom-built heating system my parents have, just in order to make her comfortable. A lot of you will probably ask, how is this such a tall order? When I mentioned previously that I married such a rich man. And I did. But that doesn't mean that we're made of money. I'm worried for both of the kids. Talia can't possibly be getting the care she needs while living in a truck. And with my parents not even getting the reprieve of her school, I know that they must be losing it a little. Protecting your own mental health is very important when dealing with a nonverbal person with disabilities, or else bad things can happen. I don't think that my parents would ever hurt Talia on purpose, but one moment of frustration can lead to terrible things. Not to mention Justin, who's probably getting ignored even more than usual with all this happening. I'm going to try to contact my parents again during the next few days, but if they continue to ignore me, I'm afraid that drastic actions will have to be necessary. Update number 3. Hey everybody, thank you for all your concerns over the last few days. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to contact either my mother or my father to check on the children. I don't know if they're just ignoring my calls or if they're actually out of range. But at this point, I don't think it matters. I've contacted some family friends as well in hopes that they known what they went, but no one seems to have heard from either my parents in a few weeks. I asked my friend who works in Talia's school, and she says that there's been no line of communication there either, which, as you can guess, is more alarming in a special needs school than it is in a mainstream school. I've contacted all my adult siblings as I know that they're a lot closer with family than I am, but again, nobody has heard anything from them, from either parent. I've talked to my husband at great lengths and we've come to the decision that there is only one real possibility of action here, though neither of us much want to take it. We've decided that if none of my family members surface in the next week, we're going to be calling Child Protective Services to make reports. It's that drastic. I know, but at this point, I just don't know what to do. I regret not agreeing to take both of the kids in immediately. If I could turn back time right now, that's what I would do. Even if I could get into contact with either of them now, I'd agree to take Talia. I feel like this is all my fault, and if I've just stopped being selfish, we would not be in this stupid situation now. I'm worried about them, all of them. Talia has a lot of medication that she needs to take, and with him going off the grid, I doubt she's getting it. Mom and Dad never need their downtime like this, and if they're worrying about Talia 24 hours a day, they're most definitely not getting any downtime. Most of all, I'm worried about Justin. He's the only one of my siblings that I'd at least have some sort of communication with over the last few years. He's the only one who's made the effort to reach out to me, I know that his needs aren't as pressing as Talia's, not at all, but that's exactly the reason he needs special attention. He's constantly overlooked in favor of her. I get that's necessary to some extent, but he's basically had to raise himself. If I'm being honest with myself, that's partially why I agreed to take him in and not Talia. I've always felt very close to him, because he's always been just expected to take care of his sister and make sure she's okay when mom and dad are busy, just like I was. I thought that maybe he would enjoy some time to just be a kid and not always be so responsible. I think I've realized through all this that I had some resentment towards Talia for always taking up my parents' time, and that's probably one of the reasons I didn't want to take her. If I feel that way, I can't imagine how Justin must feel. Update number 4. Hey guys, so I made the call yesterday. Obviously that means I still haven't heard from anybody. I'm starting to get seriously worried now. CPS said that they'd send someone out to the house, and I had to explain again that they weren't there. I wouldn't have needed to call if I've known where they were. They didn't even seem like they cared, to be honest. I know that they must get so many calls every day, and I know that they're grossly understaffed. But the lack of care is certainly shocking. The lady on the phone only really seemed to perk up once I told her about Talia's disability. It seemed that makes her a high-risk case, which, on one hand, I'm glad of, because it means that they'll make a special effort to find them. But, on the other hand, I'm mad it took that just to actually make them care. If it had just been Justin missing, they could have left it until it was too late. I'm feeling guilty. My parents aren't bad parents at all. They love us, all of us. Even though I've had a lot of difficulties with them, there's never been a question of their loyalty and love, and want what's best for us. They aren't abusive in any way, so it feels like a betrayal to call in a report on them. It's not like I want them to get arrested, obviously. I just want to make sure that everybody's safe and taken care of. I don't think that they do anything to endanger the children, but they're really proud people, and I don't know if they'd even accept help if it was offered now. I don't even know what I'm hoping happened. I don't know what has been of an accident or something that's left them stranded without their cell phones. That would be absolutely terrible. But I also don't want them to have to be ignoring my calls. If they've just been screening my phone calls and they're completely safe, then I'll be the bad guy for calling CPS. But if something bad happened, I'd rather be the one to carry the risk. As long as I find out everybody's okay, I don't mind them getting mad. Well, it's been a month now since I've had any contact with him. No one's seen or heard from them in 3 weeks. I'm an anxious wreck, but a complete ball of nerves. Every time the phone rings, I'm terrified it's going to be the police telling me they're all dead in a ditch. Maybe a car crash or something. I'm just trying to stay calm for the best of my ability. My husband helped a lot, and so have all you guys, who have been my giving support. I'll let you know when I get the next update ready. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. So I have the final 5th update for everybody. This was a long roller coaster ride, but you might be somewhat happy with this next update, so let's jump right in it. Hey guys, I know it's been some time. I'm just gonna preface this update by letting y'all know. Everyone's safe. Everyone's alright. They weren't dead in the truck somewhere. Apparently, my parents got the idea in their heads that they'd be better off going off the grid, homeschooling Justin and Talia. Dad bought an old RV, and they were parked up in a forest hunting squirrels or something. The state didn't like it, though, and decided that they were unfit parents. Talia, she's been taken into foster care. Justin's with me. I was the first person they called, as they knew that it was me who called in the report. I told them that I'd take Talia too, but they refused because of her special needs. She needs to be taken to a facility upstate where they're equipped to deal with her and give her the care she truly needs. I tried to convince them to let her stay with me, but apparently there's some sort of special certificate you need in order to take on a child with such severe mental handicaps. Everyone in the family's furious with me. Honestly, I'm furious with myself. Because of me, the family has been separated. Justin won't speak to me, even though he's living in my house. He walks past me in the halls like I'm not even there, a ghost in my own home. And when he does need something, he just asks my husband. I haven't seen Talia in a few weeks, though I'm planning to take a trip to see her soon. I've heard too many horror stories about state-run facilities, and I don't need to go there, and I just need to see with my own two eyes that she's doing all right. Mom and Dad, well, they hate me. I've tried to apologize oh so many times, but they won't hear it. I've ruined everything. All my siblings are mad at me, and my mom and dad have actually disowned me. The only reason they're all right with me having Justin is that their hate for me doesn't trump their mistrust of the foster care system. Once they get back on their feet and proven fit parents, I doubt I'll be seeing any of them again. I've talked to a lawyer about possibility of getting custody of Talia, just until my parents can take her again. But the chances, well, they aren't looking very good. Everything's a mess, and it's all my fault. If I hadn't been selfish when they first came to me for help, none of this would be happening right now. I'm a terrible sister, and I'm an even worse daughter. A lot of you guys warned me that I would regret it if I called CPS, but I don't listen. That's always been my problem. I thought that it was the only way to get to my parents. If I just trusted them, everything would have been fine. I regret the way everything turned out. I regret refusing to take both Justin and Talia when my parents first came to my door, but I don't regret calling in the report. No, I don't. My parents were wrong for thinking they could take care of Talia and Justin with no help off in the woods somewhere. I'll probably just permanently log out of this account at this point. I think I need to spend my energy on better things, yeah? Like, I don't know, helping family. Rather than trying to excuse my behavior through other people's comments. Anyways, thanks to everyone who contacted me throughout all this in my direct messages. You guys have really helped me get through these difficult times. It means more than you know. Thanks. This was a heartbreaking story. I know that the sister could not get the proper care she needed out in the woods, but it kind of broke my heart because it was just the fact that the parents were struggling financially, and they really loved their kids. They just needed more financial assistance or some sort of help. They didn't really get that, and it was really sad to hear that the sister was put away into an adoption agency or a facility owned by the state. I do want to know you guys' thoughts on this, so if you want to drop your comments down below, let's talk about it. If you've known anybody that's gone through this sort of process with CPS, let us know what happened or give us some details about what's the next step that's going to happen. Thank you guys for joining in on today's story. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a multi-update story, but man, it was pretty crazy. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button if you want to see more stories every single day. Have an amazing day, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.